Welcome back to another episode of our podcast. My name is David Levine, founder and CEO of Res Tech Solutions. And today's topic is on modernizing immigration law, where technology helps, where it fails, and what comes next. And I'd like to welcome our guest today, Sarah. And Sarah, if you'd like to take a few moments and introduce yourself.
Hey, David, thanks for having me. I'm an immigration defense attorney. I specialize completely in immigration. It's really the only law I've ever done, so I really do love it. Yes, thanks so much. It's exciting to be a part of the technology world and immigration because usually we're the red-headed stepchild of it. Technology. We're usually the last to get to adopt it. So it's finally to actually be included.
Okay, well, I look forward to kind of what we're going to discuss today. So, with that, let me go ahead and jump into our first question. And you've kind of alluded to this already. So, immigration law often relies on outdated government systems. So, from your perspective, where does modern technology actually help immigration attorneys today, and where does it still fall short?
So I guess there are two sides to that coin. There's as the government uses it, and then there's as you use it. When it comes to how the government uses it, it either works perfectly and makes everybody's life better and easier, or if there's just one little flaw, it doesn't work at all, and then you're back to doing something on paper. Like, for example, just last week, I was doing someone's work authorization, and there was one glitch in the USCIS system. I contacted tech support. They're like, sorry, nothing we can do about it. We have no clue what's going on. Just go back to paper. I'm like, great. So I'm back to going, telling my clients, sorry, I do need, paper photographs. I do need you to go back and sign physically by hand and stuff like that. And so it's just kind of embarrassing to the client because it makes it look like you don't know what's going on, or maybe you weren't really sure how to do this, that you're now going back to paper when you told them, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it for you. But when it does work, it does make life so much better. They are not known for being good with document tracking or being fastidious with getting things done quickly. And so when you can actually send things to them electronically, it makes life 10 times easier.
Okay, great. And I know in our prior conversation, you had mentioned that immigration law is still behind other practice areas when it comes to tech adoption. So, what's been the hardest part of modernizing your firm while still delivering a very human and client focused experience?
Sure. I would say the hardest part is making sure that you're not following behind on what tools are available and the adoption on tools, because you don't want to ever fall behind in what's going on in the business world. But at the same time, I think when people are coming to you in law, and specifically immigration law, they're coming to you in some of the worst moments of their family's life. So they don't want to be told, oh, go to this portal and work on your checklist and just focus on your checklist on the portal and don't bother me. Anybody wants to hear. They want to know there's a human being on that's working with them and there's a human being fighting for them. So I find that tech is fine when it comes to work that doesn't involve client care. Yeah. As long as it's not involving client care, I think it's fine. So gathering information and processing payments, admin work, initial setup, that's fine. But then once that's taken care of, it really needs to be a hands-on experience.
Great. And I think you've touched on some of this next question a bit already, but when you've looked at tools like client portals, case management software, AI driven solutions, what concerns or uncertainties tend to slow decision making?
Sure. So I was originally so excited about client portals. I thought it would streamline processes, make everything easier for the client because they could see where an instant status update rather than waiting for an appointment with their attorney. And they could see exactly where they were and get their documents or their attorney instantly and know that everything was progressing automatically. But I've really decided to, as of right now, I'm not using decided not to use client portals anymore. It's too easy for people to send documents that I know are going to be rejected for one reason or another, either for a lack of quality, lack of clarity, and not being quite what the government is going to want. And so the client portal is not helpful because it makes people think that they've checked boxes that really are not safe to check at this point. And that's really just a judgment call that you have to make after doing like an in-person review of what it really is. Management software is a different story though. I can't imagine running a practice today without it. I started back in the day when everything was on paper, every note was taken on paper, and the client electronic file was really there for a backup in emergencies. And I would never go back to the world of paper. So client management software, it's been an amazing adoption for sure. As far as AI-driven solutions, With that in the law, you have to be very careful. Many attorneys have gotten into a lot of trouble for having been found to use AI in court. I think you can tell when something's written in AI. It's written in a particular manner that's not quite how any of us would say it. The grammar is often very distinctive, and the way it makes lists is very distinctive. So I would be careful with using that for actual legal work. It's often incomplete. Maybe it's there, but it's maybe 5 years from now, a few years from now, it will be much better. But for now, I'd say it's really not quite there because immigration law changes weekly. Sometimes Monday through Friday will be different. And I don't think the AI is quite there yet that it's that adapted.
Yeah, just from all the conversations I had on AI, yeah, I've heard kind of the whole spectrum of how it's being used, in law in general. I know a lot of firms are using it to, um, what's the word I'm looking for?
First drafts.
Be more efficient with like internal operations. What are some essentially grunt work that can be taken off people's plates so human capital can be reassigned where it's truly needed. I do know lawyers that do use AI to help, maybe with document review or doing some initial research or even initial of drafting of items, whatever it may be. But just like for any business, not just law, anytime you use AI, I always like to tell people that, think of that output that you get is always a first draft. And especially
I
in like in your field where things are always changing, it should just be more of, I hate to say, think of it as a tool because when you think of it as a tool, that you're not as effective with it. But I think with what you're saying, because of how much things change, I don't know if there's a way around that part of it right now. But there's a lot that AI can help. And I say this not necessarily just to you, but to anyone who may be listening, is just to understand, there's a lot you can do with AI, and no one should ever be afraid to approach using it.
I would agree. There are a lot of different creative ways you can do it, especially for simpler things like emails, letters, things that are not going to make a profound impact on somebody's life. What I really love it for is how it's revolutionized legal research. Highly detailed, specific legal research used to be a very expensive niche field, and now you can use prompts to find me a particular case that says X. And it often doesn't work. Often you will look up that case and it definitely does not says X, it says Y. And so you still have to be careful, but it's still 10 times more efficient than it used to be.
Yeah, and I've definitely experienced that because I've done my own research to do CLE courses. I did a couple last year, so I do recognize that piece of it from the research standpoint. Where yes, it does tend to hallucinate a lot, but it does, I think, cut down a lot of the time you would spend researching otherwise. Because at least
It for sure does.
it does get you a good chunk of the way there.
It for sure does. Research used to normally be like a full day, several days. It's not that way anymore, so that is quite nice.
And I want to ask one other follow up because you mentioned on the client portals you've chosen to basically go the other direction and not use them. Just for some clarity and understanding, how do you currently get the documents from clients, or how do they currently submit,
Sure.
or is
So I
that
want
all
everyone
done
to do
in
it however
person?
is easiest for them. Some people that means scanning physical documents while on their office scanner while they're at work. Other people that means texting it and then I'll just readjust the sizing of the file once I get it uploaded to their CSM. But I want to make sure it's always being done however is easiest for the client. I personally feel like there is a bit of client portal fatigue. It seems like every professional you interact with, they want you to create a separate account and log in. And so you have to have all these different logins and all these different accounts just to regulate daily business. And I think a lot of people just want to be able to pick up a phone, text, or email and be able to handle business quickly rather than stopping and going through like a separate one portal for your accountant, one for your doctor, one for this, one for that. It's it's a lot for people. I think people like the white glove client. So my preference is however it's easiest for you, just send me what's easiest for you and then we'll work with it.
All right, well, great. So, and we, I guess in our discussion, we also kind of got into my next question I had because also in our prior conversation, you had called out finance and administrative work as areas that do make more sense for automation. So, what kind of impact have you seen, or are you hoping to see by utilizing technology in those areas?
Yeah, so anything that doesn't have a human that you're working with and a human that needs care, I'd say that's prime territory for it should be automated. And we're almost getting to a point where there's no excuse for that not being automated at this point. So anything that involves data collection or information collection or in finance, there's no person wants to spend their time, submitting invoices, checking invoices, following up on them. That can all be done automatically these days and really easily. And so it's just if we want to talk about grunt work to free up human capital, I think that's the easiest way to free up human capital is just finding the tasks that don't involve any human care and then automating that.
Oh, great. Appreciate the insight. So, I want to switch gears a little bit and get a little less off the business side and more you personally. So, what do you enjoy most about your role today, especially when it comes to advocating for clients while managing the realities of running a modern law firm?
Sure. So the technology or no, I'd say the enjoyment is kind of always the same. It's a lot of fun to get to be there for someone and to actually win for someone and to see a family's future really impacted by the way you work. In today's political climate, it's definitely not friendly, not helpful to my clients at all. And so that makes life a lot harder. And I think that makes it more important to walk that journey with them. And it's really been a community effort this past year, which is actually pretty nice. I think, even if you are a smaller firm, even if you are a solo practitioner, I would say none of us are truly on our own. The community's really come together and self-organized. And that has actually been quite nice to experience.
All right, fantastic. And this next question is actually one of my favorite questions. I love asking all my guests, and I know based on kind of what we talked, this tends to have this case will have a little more technology slant. But are there any technology initiatives or really any initiatives that you're actively exploring or reconsidering right now, whether that's AI, client systems, or internal workflows, or something else that you might like to share?
Yes, I would say recently in these past 6 months, past year, a lot of companies have been pitching to immigration attorneys to use AI to review identity documents, vital documents, we call them. Vital documents are everything from passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates, anything that proves your history. And I've so far resisted it. One tiny little mistake could ruin a case. If you have to have something for X number of years and AI misreads it in any type of way, that could derail someone's entire process. And I'm like, no way am I interested in having that sort of risk keep me up at night, just not having had a human being review everything. So I think I'm going to let the technology, because these tools were been pitched to us, I'd say the last 6, 7 months. So I think I've been waiting to see where the reviews are. Who has bought into these tools? Are they happy with the reviews? So we're not buying the first version. I don't want to buy the first model that comes out. I want to see like second, third generation. How are people happy with second and third generation? I think that's kind of where AI is in the legal field in general. Tools that get pitched to us on a weekly basis. And you can pick out a few, and a few can work, and you can have your systems running. But then a month later, you'll have new tools pitched to you. And you can't keep on switching every few months. That would be inherently inefficient for everyone. And so I think it's a matter of doing it. It used to be annual reviews. Maybe with the speed that technology is going, that's not good enough. Maybe biannual reviews need to be done these days, it causes problems on its own because so much is sold to you in terms of annual subscriptions. And so you kind of have to really judge your biannual or annual review in time of a month or two before your annual subscriptions. And so I would say it's a balance between being willing to adapt and being excited to adapt, but not being so focused on adapting that you're constantly changing, multiple times a year. That's just inefficient. And if you were to take all the advice that was thrown at you, you'd be updating your systems 3 to 4 times a year these days. Yeah.
It's almost what I like to call the shiny object syndrome because you see something new and it's just like
Yeah.
you gotta have it, and it's like I've learned the hard way. Sometimes you just have to say no, and almost to the point where you almost ignore all that till it's like there's a true need, and then you kind of open that can of worms a little bit. So I understand that, but yes, and AI is constantly changing, as you mentioned earlier. So quickly that literally almost every week it seems like there's something new that's out there.
Yeah. And I guess the fear is I just don't want to buy into and invest that first generation model. I'm always looking for something that's been worked on and the reviews show that it's good. Yeah.
And so, talking about these different systems and as you evaluate and consider adopting, how confident do you feel about the security side of those systems, especially given the sensitivity of the immigration data that y'all work with?
Sure. So fortunately the government systems, they do appear to be pretty well locked down. We don't really hear or see it of any like security um, leakages or hacks. Even something as simple as Zoom, we're not allowed to use Zoom to speak to a judge or opposing counsel or anything because that's not considered to be secure enough. So I think measures like that do help cut down on leaks, and it's a matter of I think having basic common sense and not engaging in just poor electronic communications. And what I always tell my clients is if you anything that smells fishy is fishy and send it to me, show me immediately anything that sounds fishy. There are a lot of scams going around and someone might tell you, "Oh, I'm a DHS agent." Okay, well, DHS agents don't text you. They don't, WhatsApp you or anything like that. So when you receive those messages on WhatsApp, make sure I see them and review them. And I have submitted more than one fraud complaints to DHS hotline this year, thinking like, hey, I think these people are trying to impersonate your agents. Because there are little details. They'll behave unprofessionally. They'll use grammar that I've never heard a DHS grammar agent use. And so I'd say the most important thing is to be inherently suspicious.
No, it's always good advice. And just even talking about like the way people in government communicate, and forgive my ignorance here, but I know, like you said, they won't necessarily text you or WhatsApp you. Now, is a lot of the official communication still through means of like physical paper communication, or what are the common
Yeah.
methods they typically still use?
Paper is going to be most common. If you have a online USCIS account, then anything that comes through your online USCIS account will be official. The problem is you wouldn't believe how many processes still are not online. The sheer number of processes that are still paper only are wild. And where we see this have a lot of problems is when people move and don't update their address. 2, 3 times I've seen people update their address on times and still have the physical documents go to an old address. So yeah, there's another major problem just because so much of the system is not electronic that we are still relying on the right piece of paper getting to the right new address. And I'd say that causes a slew of problems regularly.
All right. As we are approaching our time here and wrapping up, again, I appreciate all the insights. I do find this very fascinating in the world of immigration, especially given our current climate and everything that's going on. But are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave with the audience?
Thank you. I would say to be curious about new tools that can come up and just pick ones slowly and just not move from one to the next too quickly because it's so easy to fall for a sales pitch and you will be pitched to constantly. As soon as you buy one product, like 10 more will descend on you.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. Appreciate all your insights.
Yeah, thanks, David, for having me.
All right. And for anyone who would like to know more or like some additional information, we'll have all the information in the description below this video. So please do feel free to reach out. And we'll be happy to have a conversation. Or if you want to reach out to Sarah, we'll have her website, her LinkedIn on there so you can connect.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.